Hello and welcome to Datacasts. In recent videos we've been writing some code together that reads film reviews from the Guardian Film Review website. And we've pretty much created all of the functionality we need to get this thing to work. So for example, if I run all of the code that I have here in my R file, I can then run a single command down here in the console, which would be get_reviews. And I don't need to pass any arguments to this function. I can just run it as it is. And then you see that it appears as if, as we're looking at the console, that nothing is actually happening. So as a user of this code, I might be concerned that something has broken and I'm probably going to stop running the code. But in fact, this is working. This is doing exactly what it should. But as we know from my last video, and I'll put a link up to that on the top right of the screen for you, we use this package, the Polite package. And one of the principles of the Polite package is it does things slowly. So it is slowly reading all of the data from the Guardian Film Review website, so as not to seem as if we're performing some kind of denial of service attack. But because it's doing it so slowly, it appears to the user as if it's not doing anything at all. So how do we solve this problem? Well, I think the best way to do this is to provide some feedback to the user. After all, under the hood, all of these different functions here are executing. So let's look at these first three functions, for example, which are essentially the wrapper functions that call all of the other functions that we've built. So we call getReviews down in the console, and we didn't pass any arguments. So what it did was it created this session, which connected to the Guardian Film Review website. And then the first thing it did is it called get_URLs. And what that does is it reads however many pages of film reviews that we specify when we call getReviews. It reads those pages and then it grabs the URLs to the individual reviews, which it then goes on to read doing this getReviewData function. And it's in getReviewData that we're actually getting the data that we want from each individual review. So at the top level, there are these three steps: getReviews, getURLs, and then getReviewData. You can see down here in the console that now everything is actually completed and I have all of this data that I'm expecting. But boy, did that take a while. So let's reassure the user. First of all, when they initiate the whole thing, when they call getReviews, we want to basically provide some kind of greeting message to say, okay, we're going to get things started now. And then when we have the data for each film review, we're going to let the user know that as well. And we're going to go even further, and we're actually going to link off to those film reviews. So if they are sitting here waiting for all these film reviews to be processed through this code, they can click on the link and read the review while they wait. And we're going to do this using a package called CLI. And I'm here on the GitHub page for the CLI package, which describes itself as a suite of tools to build attractive command line interfaces, which is pretty wordy, but it basically means that we can create cool messages in the console, a bit like you see here. Okay, so let's get started. Now I'm assuming that you've already installed the CLI package, which I have done, and I'm going to call that, I'm going to call library CLI, and I'm just going to load up that particular package. So we call getReviews, and before we do anything else, we're actually going to pass a message into the console for the user. So I'm going to create a new function for this, and I'm going to call it initiation_message. This doesn't return anything because it just prints out to the console. But I do need to pass an argument because what I want to say to the user is that I am now going to start downloading X number of pages of reviews. X here is whatever the user passes as an argument to getReviews, right? It's the number of pages of reviews that they want to download. So I do need to pass on that pages argument to initiation message. So let's create that function, and I think what I'll do is I'll create all of my sort of console message functions right at the bottom. So I'm going to come way down here and I'm going to create initiation_message, which is a function, and it accepts the pages. So let's think about the message that we want to give to the user here. I want to let them know that we are now downloading X number of film reviews from the Guardian website. And there's obviously two different ways of sort of phrasing that, because if there's a single page, then we're going to be downloading a page of film reviews. But if there's more than one page, then we're going to be downloading X number of pages of film reviews. So there's two variations of that message. So we need to, I think, create an object here, which I will call pages_num. And this needs to be a conditional, so if else, which comes from the dplyr package. So we first of all want to create a version that is a single page, right? So we need to count how many pages are being passed. So pages, and if we scroll right back up to the get reviews function, pages is an integer, and by default it's set to 1, but it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So this is an integer, which means that we can count the size of that integer. So we can say length pages. So if the length of pages is 1, so if it's just the one page, that doesn't necessarily mean the first page, right? So if we look at this function, pages equals 1, that's sort of indicating which pages, not so much the number of pages, but which pages in particular the user wants to read. So it could be equal to, it could be something like, for example, 2 to 5. So it's saying pages 2 to 5. By default, we're saying just the first page. And if I come down here in the console and I type 2 to 5, well, that actually returns a vector, right, of length 4. So 2 to 5 is 4. So we need to count how many pages. So we count the length of the vector. And if that is equal to 1, then we're going to say a page, a single page is being read. Otherwise, we're going to concatenate a string with what is being passed here with length again. So again, we'll say length pages. So this is X number of pages, right? So then we pass pages. So say that you passed 2 to 5. You want to read the reviews from pages 2 to 5. Well, you're reading 4 pages of reviews. So it's going to be length pages. That's going to be 4 pages, right? Whereas if it's length 1, whether that is the first page or the second page or the third page or whichever page, then that is going to be a page. So now we have this phrase that we can use within our user message. So now we can create that message. So this is where we can use the CLI package. And that has a function called CLI_alert that I'm going to use here. So we're just sort of alerting the user that this thing is happening. And I'm going to create a little more room for myself here to create the actual message that we want to pass. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to inform them about two things. I'd like to tell them, first of all, how many pages of film reviews are being downloaded, which they should already know because that's what they dictated when they called get_reviews. But I also want to let them know that we are politely downloading those film reviews. And I want to link to the polite package URL so that if they were curious about how we're doing things here, then they can read about that on that website. Now I've come here to the CLI website, and I'm reading about how to use links in messages. And it says that there are two CLI styles to link to generic URLs. .url does not allow custom link text, but \href does. So I probably want to use the href type. So I can see down here they've got the CLI homepage for details, and they've got this custom text with a link underneath that text, and they're using this .href, and then the text is wrapped in square braces and the URL in parentheses. So this is what I sort of need to use in our message. So if I come back to Posit Cloud, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link to the Politely website. So I'm going to use that same style that we saw there on the CLI help page. So we're going to pass .href, and then I'm going to say politely, right? Politely downloading. So that's going to be the text. And then I want to add the URL to the polite package. And they actually have this website here that I think is a good thing to link to with all the information that the user might need. So I'm just going to paste that straight into there. So now that word politely will link to this particular link, which is what we want. So we're going to say politely downloading. And then we want to pass the number of pages, right? Politely downloading X number of pages. And we created that particular phrase in the pages underscore num object. And we can actually pass objects in here using those curly braces. So we can do pages underscore num. So that's going to say politely downloading a page or politely downloading X pages, depending on how many pages we've passed. Of film reviews from, and it's going to be from the Guardian's film review website, right? So again, we need another .href here, and we're going to pass the square brackets to say the Guardian film website, and then we need the URL to the Guardian film website. So here's the Guardian film website, so I'm just going to pop this URL into here, and that's it. That should be the message we need. So politely downloading, so X number of pages of film reviews from the Guardian film website. So why don't we try this? Why don't we just see if this initiation message is popping up? So I'm going to rerun all of that code, and then I'm going to call get underscore reviews again, and I'm not going to pass anything. And there you go, you see in the console politely downloading a page of film reviews from the Guardian film website. And I can click politely, and it takes me to the polite homepage. And I can click on the Guardian film website, and it takes me to the Guardian film website, which is great. But I'm still waiting here, right? I've created this initiation message, but there are a number of other things that are happening, and we want to continue giving feedback. So let's stop that code from running. So we call get reviews, we call our initiation message, we prepare the session, and then we move straight into get URLs, where we're grabbing the URLs from all of the different pages. And so I'm wondering, maybe it actually doesn't make sense to provide a user message at this point. Perhaps the best next point at which to provide a user message is once we've downloaded a review. Because if you look at get review data, which we call here within map, so what's happening is we're having all these review links, and each review's URL is being passed into get review data. So essentially, after each execution of get review data, so at the end of this function, we want to be able to say, well, we've downloaded that review now, and you can go ahead and read that review if you want. So I think this is probably where it makes sense to add another user message. And that user message, we'll call it something like film underscore review download underscore status underscore message. So that's a bit wordy, but film review download status message. And because we want to provide information about the film review that has just been downloaded, we need to pass the film review data here. So you can see here is where we create that data frame. And that's what needs to be passed into this particular function. So let's go ahead and create that function beneath our existing initiation message function. So down here, we'll come down and we'll do film review download status message. And that'll be a function, and that will accept the data frame. So then what is this going to do? Well, first of all, we need to extract items from the data frame that we're going to refer to in the message. So I want to say something like downloaded somebody's review of film with link to the film, right? So Peter Bradshaw, for example, is a film review on the Guardian film website. So I want to say something like downloaded Peter Bradshaw's review of whatever the film is. So I need the author's name, I need the review URL, and I need the film title. So I want author, and that is going to be data, and that is stored in the column called author. I'm going to want URL, and again that comes from data, and it comes from the column which is called review underscore URL, and then I want the title of the film, and again that is data, and this time the column is called film underscore title. So that gives me the data I need to pass into my message. Oh, and by the way, I realized in my previous function I didn't return anything, which is important. So I'm going to store the message in an object called message, and then I'm going to return message, which is just sort of best practice. And then we'll do something similar here with our film review download status message, where we're going to create an object called, again, message. There's a function from CLI which is called CLI alert success. So it's a message to say that something has successfully been executed. And we're going to say downloaded X person's review, right? So we're going to pass in the object of author, which has the name of the author of the film review. So author's review of, and here we're going to pass a link with some custom text, so .href, and then the square braces for the text, and this comes from title, because that is the title of the film. And then we're going to link off to the URL of the review. So we need our usual parentheses, and we're going to pass in the URL object. We'll add a period at the end as well, and actually I'll just be a bit pedantic here, but I'll put a period at the end of that one too. So that's the message, and then the last thing we do, of course, is to return message. So film review download status message should provide this message here every time that get review data executes. So we can see that it's called here. I'll just put a little bit of a gap between those two things there. Okay, this should give us everything that we need. So I'm just going to restart R just to kind of start everything from scratch here. And then I'm going to run this particular file. So I load all of those different functions. And then down in the console, I'm going to call get underscore reviews. And I'm going to try and get the reviews for pages 1 to 2, right? So 1:2. We can hit enter. So politely downloading 2 pages of film reviews from the Guardian Film website. So there's really a bit of a gap here because it is reading through the page 1 and then the page 2 to get all the URLs. But in a fairly short amount of time, I can see that it is now telling me that it is downloading these reviews. And there's just a few seconds that are passing between each of these messages. So I'm getting this sort of continuous feedback as get underscore review data is being executed. And the really cool thing is I can click on one of these links and it takes me to that review. So I can just read that review while I wait. And then when I come back, I can see that it's continuing and I can click on another review. I can also see that because I used this alert type for the first message, I can see this little icon here. And then I used the CLI success function. So what was it called again? CLI alert success. And that's where I have these little ticks to show me that that this is a good thing, that these things have successfully downloaded. So there you go. That's pretty much it. I think that wraps up this particular series so far, at least. We could take this further and convert all of this into an R package, and maybe at some point I'll do that. But I think this provides some really nice functionality. The user of this script just needs to call a single function. They don't even need to pass anything to that function, but they can pass a numeric vector if they'd like to. And then as the various different functions are executing, they're getting this really cool feedback in the console as well, which allows them to click off and read these film reviews while they wait. So I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope that you feel confident about giving something like this a try yourselves. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.